I had a couple student cancellations, so I have some free time to make some videos. I found it interesting. It's always a constant uphill battle. Whenever you have an interest in anything, whether that be, evolution, health, or, typology, Myers-Briggs type things, or, uh, um, what's it called, astrology, all these different topics of interest that people have, and the combination you get from people on the outside. And it's interesting about different things like this. And the problem is the world is filled with surface learners at best, or they heard something, or they skimmed an article and they're like, oh, okay, well, it's debunked, so it means it's not true. And it's interesting because humans are, I mean, I guess this is greatly just lazy, because if anybody actually reads like Energies and Patterns by Dr. John Beebe, the book is heavy. It's incredibly complicated, and it's actually quite confusing even to someone like me who's been, researching this for a long time. And then you get this book and you're like, whoa, and to think that MBTI or Jungian psychology is just like generalizations and stereotypes is just absolutely ignorant. And and it's always funny to me is that the people who want to say, hey, you shouldn't believe that kind of stuff because it boxes people in. Those same people like to box women and men in different categories because they're concrete thinkers, and it's just the way sensors are. And so that's interesting to me because when you actually literally go into each cognitive function, and there's only 8 categories, so major cognitive functions, but each meaning of each function has a myriad of definitions and how they manifest a myriad of different ways. And so people are either surface learners, they don't know anything about. So anybody who actually, read Dr. Lyndon Barron's books and actually knows how to apply this information has a completely different mindset versus somebody that wants to troll comments on YouTube or Facebook and things like that, and think they know what they're talking about. And they don't know what they're talking about. No, typically speaking, they're going to be SPs. SPs are typically like this because they're freedom-based people, and they don't like being boxed in. And the idea that they are incredibly plentiful and a dime a dozen also, I think, scares them. But sorry, you are. Uh, but It's interesting to me because it would be like me. I don't know much about evolution. I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. I've never researched or studied it. It would be like me looking at evolution and saying, that's not true. I didn't come from a monkey. Okay, that's a very overly generalized statement about evolution. Evolution is a very complex subject with a lot of different issues that are not answered, and then there's other places where they are answered. Okay, I mean, evolution isn't that old when it comes to most human beliefs, and when you're going on Jungian depth psychology, I mean, Carl Jung was alive in 1912. I mean, this is 100 years old. I mean, this is a very, very young, you know, science of psychology. And so, yeah, a lot of things aren't answered, but that does not discredit it. And it's interesting to me that people will jump to those conclusions like that. And so, I suggest to the naysayers out there who may see this video, I suggest you at least read Dr. Lyndon Barron's books, Introduction to Type Psychology. Um, Let me see, I got a picture. There's actually a bootleg PDF file around this book, Understanding Yourself and Others. I got a PDF file of it. And then there's this other book, Energies and Patterns. Where did it go? This book is heavy. Energies and Patterns by Dr. John Beebe. And I got to read each chapter multiple times because in all honesty, it reads as if you need to have at least a bachelor's in psychology to understand what Dr. John Beebe is doing. And so people are saying, "Oh, this is debunked. This is credit." I mean, this guy is a practicing doctor, in San Francisco, you know, and he practices on a daily basis and literally helps people. And so anybody that thinks that any psychology is conclusive is just completely ignorant and have no idea what they're talking about because it literally is a field of science that changes all the time. Uh, and it's funny, I like to say it's not geology, which is more concrete, hands-on, but geology changes somewhat too. And so anyway, so yeah, so when you hear someone that says, "Oh, that's just stereotyping and boxing people," that's not what it is. It literally is just figuring out how you're wired. Okay, and then so there's a lot of different things that could happen to somebody. So you could be an ISTJ, born in the United States, have access to public education, college, and ability to use your mind to research and to be a scholar that you want. Or you could be an ISTJ that was born in, I don't know, Uganda or something like that, and maybe public education isn't available to you. You know, maybe you don't have enough nutrition in your body to make your brain grow as well as it should. But does that make you not an ISTJ? No, you're still an ISTJ. You just don't have access to the same as other ISTJs would somewhere else. And so people confuse nature with nurture, and nurture is a whole nother different field of subject. It's not what I'm talking about. How often do I say, "Oh, you could have been abused, or you could have been this, and this affects your personality"? I don't even bring that stuff up. That's irrelevant because even if you were abused, even if you were, had a lot of issues, um, it's still not going to change your type. You know, now certain people who are drug users can be very confused. There's actually quite a few people who are on YouTube that are confused about their own type, and I think because of drugs. But no, this is not about generalization. It's not about stereotypes. It's about how you're wired. How you use that wiring are two different things. You know, just if you want to call yourself biological machines, just like a car can do a lot of different feats, you could use it to drive and commute to work. You can use it for fun and driving on a country road. You can use it in a demolition derby and crash into each other. You can race each other. You can put trays under your back tires and spin around in circles in a parking lot. There's a lot of different ways to use that, the machine. And so if our thinking of our brains as a wired machine, there's a lot of different ways we can use it. And so, no, it's not about generalization. It's a very, very complex field of science, and it's very confusing. And so, but once you start diving into it, you realize how little you do know. But then it's so useful for what you do know, and it's quite fascinating. So, anyways, that's my thoughts on that. I wanted to do this. What triggered this video was watching the "Is it for real?" in the psychology in the astrology topic, because I only know surface astrology. Um, and it was interesting because she was breaking down that your sun side, and then but you don't know your moon side. I didn't realize there were three different sides. And so just like with Jungian depth psychology, when you're thinking of different sides of the mind, just because you're an ISTJ, you still have your other two sides of your mind. You have your ESTP, shadow, and then you have your ENFP, subconscious, and then you even have your INFJ, superego. And so when you're going to the four sides of the mind theory like this, it completely answers a lot more questions like that. And so people are like, "Well, I'm introverted." Well, no, you're not. You're an ESTP, you're extroverted, but later on in life you found introversion to be beneficial, and so now you're more that way. And so just because you've learned to be more introverted or you learn to be more extroverted, does it make you one or the other? You know, it's more complex than that. And so stop generalizing, you know, this and thinking you know about it when you only know surface information. And so it's not what it is.